And welcome into another episode of Tiger Territory, part of the Foul Territory Network, a Detroit Tigers podcast. I'm Kieran Steckley. With me, as always, the man who knows there's nothing wrong with falling off the bone. He is Cody Stavenhagen. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good, Kieran. How are you?
I am excellent. I just went through a myriad of emotions, baseball-wise, as I'm sure we both did, watching Oklahoma State in the college baseball tournament, and then also watching a second consecutive 1-0 game between the Tigers and the Royals. This time, however, the Tigers come out on top. Of course, in the series over there in Kansas City, they will head to go for another divisional series. But, talk about like rise of emotions. Like the teams were kind of slugging through. Like there's like two versions of the word slugfest. There's one where there's like a lot of hits. That's kind of like the Oklahoma State Georgia game was, and then there's the slugfest where you're just kind of like slugs, where you're just kind of like going through, and that's really what those two games were. That's a little bit disrespectful to the pitching that we saw over the weekend, but still wasn't like a whole lot of action. The recap videos would be shorter than normal, I would say, in terms of things that happen on the field. Still, Tigers do just enough on Sunday to, like I said, get the series win over the Kansas City Royals. And the bats were cold. Like there were some elements there where I thought, are we watching a game in late March? Or are we watching a game in, say, like mid-August where like there's some fatigue set in? You know, it just didn't seem like a lot of things were working there, but you do just enough. Zach McKinstry, no stranger to having good amounts of energy, goes from second to third, and then has the slowest pass ball score of all time. And like I said, it was just enough. Great pitching for the Tigers, Montero, Lee, Holton as well, and the Canely Vest combination. One of the more fun combinations that we've seen from Tigerland in a while. So the way I was actually going to begin this podcast, Cody, was going to be like the Tigers should feel X about this series win, because I think I really do think that's kind of just like take it in whatever direction you want, because there's a lot to kind of piece through emotionally.
Well, you won the series, so you should feel good about it. One weekend, you were facing some good pitching. You didn't really hit. It was a little bit sluggish, which John Beeline just ruined the term slug for me forever. Like I just hear that word. I think of John Beeline like saying some dumb stuff and then making a dumb excuse for it. So that's neither here nor there. But yeah, like, it's hot. You're playing these day games. You're facing some good pitching. The bats just aren't really clicking, and you lose a Skubal start, but you still come away. You win the series. Like so I think you should feel good. Maybe not great about the entire just level of play over the weekend, but again, when you're maybe not at your best and you take 2 or 3, and you're the Tigers, and so many things continue to go well for you, be glad to get out of there. You get to go face the White Sox. That should probably put a smile on your face. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I kind of feel the same. Like over the course of 162 games, I'm a big believer that you're going to have to win. You're going to have to win games where I don't want to say don't deserve to win, but like you're not playing at your best over the course of a series. And obviously the bats were hot Friday night, Saturday, nothing really going for you. Sunday, just enough going for you. Like no one's going to tell their grandkids about this late May, early June series in 2025. Like this was not a pinnacle point, for the Tigers season, but it was a productive one. And it was, and there were some small things that we can take from it that, okay, that's the thing. Let's see if that can expand. One of them was, Gleyber Torres continued to be an on-base machine. Colt Keith continuing to quietly, we'll talk about him a little bit later, quietly get the bat going. But back on, I want to talk about Keith's bat later, but we could just say it off the top here since it's, fresh on our minds. Pretty dang good defensive day from Colt Keith on Sunday, Cody.
It was probably the best he's looked, at first base in any like singular game. I thought the double play turn was really smooth. I kind of had to do a double take and be like, oh wait, that was Colt Keith. Like just his movements in general seemed a lot more fluid. Maybe he's finally getting a little bit more comfortable over there.
Yeah, and it's not from a any comfortability that he gets there is not from some high amount of game reps, as everybody is aware. And then I guess like we could just do this now because I don't think either one of us feel like that strongly about it. But
This is what the people want to hear. Let's
what
do
the
it.
people want to hear. You got to give it out the top here. Tarik Skubal throws 7 scoreless innings on Saturday, Cody, and he gives up only 2 hits. He has 7 strikeouts and a high amount of walks. No, I'm just kidding. He had 0 walks, as is tradition with the Skubal outing. 90 pitches, like you're okay there. You're not bragging about a low pitch count, but you're not over the hill or anything like that. And Bo Brisky comes in, promptly gives up some hard contact, and the Royals get a run over. There's a certain element of sport that you don't want to do the thing that your opponent is glad that you did. And obviously, in this case, it would be taking Tarik Skubal off the mound. However, there is realization that it's only late May, and at this point, the Tigers ought to be, keeping, any friends that are getting married of any Tigers players ought not to set a wedding day in October right now. So, you got to plan the longer term here. And I had no problem taking Skubal out there. I understand the sentiment of keeping him in. He's hot. He's Skubal. But at the same time, you're going to need your Briskies to come in and shut the door. You need your Holtons to come in and shut the door. He did everything that he is supposed to do. He went 7. He gave up 0 runs. He had the offense, fooling themselves the entire time. Bottom line is you got to score runs too. So I thought it was the right move to take Skubal out, even if it's what happened to my beautiful game, and why not just ride the best pitcher in baseball as long as possible. You kind of going against the advice of Justin Verlander there, I guess. But that was my take. I thought it was the right move. I get the emotional aspect, but the logical aspect to me was take them out. You got these arms. You got to use them. They got to come through for you either way, and you got to score runs either way. So that was my thing.
Yeah, I really struggle to have a strong opinion one way or another on this issue. And that's probably not exciting to listen to, but I think it's because I'm thinking of this from a logical perspective. Is there really a strong right or wrong here? You're bringing in Bo Brisky, who's been great against left-handed batters. AJ was almost, he knew the Royals had lefties on the bench. He's like, if they want to put him in, go for it. Maybe then they turn to a lefty in the 9th, whatever. Statistically, Bo Brisky made some sense there, even if Bo has not been at his best this year. It made sense. The matchups weren't bad. Skubal, as great as he is, you're seeing these hitters for the 4th time in the game. He's only thrown, 90 pitches seems to be about kind of the governor for AJ Hinch. And it's hard to know how much science. That's what this comes down to. Is 104 pitches actually that much worse than 90 pitches? Do we know? Does anyone have any idea? I personally do not. AJ, in his answer, he talked about it Sunday morning, kind of said, when you're in the dugout, you do have a lot more data or information about fatigue levels or whatever. And I'm like, well, what is that information? I would love to know that information a little more depth, because then maybe I could give a more informed take. I think there has been a little bit. I think Justin Verlander did AJ Hinch no favors, because Skubal throws a complete game on 94 pitches, and Verlander's like, oh, yeah, he's the horse. You just ride him. And kind of everyone just started assuming like, oh, Skubal's never coming out of the game ever again now. Historically, this was a very normal point for AJ Hinch to remove Tarik Skubal, or really any starting pitcher. Go look at his game logs. This year, he has thrown, let's just look at last 6 starts, 73, 96, 95, 94, 94, 90. So this is the point in the game in which he gets pulled. He has not thrown 100 pitches once this season. So just because he threw a complete game and 94 pitches his last outing, now we're expecting him to go 100 plus. that doesn't fully make sense. At the same time, I get those who are mad because it's a 1-0 game, or it's a scoreless game at that point, and you want to send those guys down. Who would you rather have on the mound than Tarik Skubal? Is one more inning going to affect what happens to him in October? I have a hard time believing that. But if you're operating with that theory every single game, then one inning turns into 15 extra innings and however many extra pitches, and maybe that does make a difference. So I guess I don't think there's a clear right or wrong answer here because it didn't go their way. Pasquantino, I think maybe he was cheating outside part of the plate a little bit, but he punches one and a run scores. Brisky had previously given up a double. But because the run scores and the Tigers lose, it's viewed as oh, that was the wrong decision. And I'm just not sure it's that cut and dry.
Yeah, and we'll talk about the element that made it look like the wrong decision. But first, a word from our sponsors.
If you're a card collector or you'd like to get into card collecting, may I suggest Arena Club and slab packs, which means that you can rip the packs digitally and, of course, get the card that you want. It's also the most trusted name in the game, and I would rather rip packs these days on my phone than sit next to you and have you grabbing one of my physical packs if I was grabbing one.
Yeah, you don't need me grabbing your packs because last time you grabbed one, it ended up like this card. So let's not have that, and that's why Arena Club is great. They send them to you in these fancy protectors like this Scout Braun card that we have here, and they'll come safe. They're already graded, or you could do like I do and just leave my cards in the showroom and never actually see them physically.
Yeah.
But they're safe, protected, and if I want to sell them, I can.
Buy, sell, trade. They offer full transparency, showing every card in the slab pack with the likelihood of pulling each one so you know exactly what's available before you buy. Get 20% off your first slab pack or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/FAL and use code FAL.
All right, so we talked about the Brisky element there, and I had this thought, Cody, that for as much as we spent just making a lot of assumptions about the pitching, the starting pitching, which we'll talk about in a little bit, and the bullpen, about just more or less it'd be okay. I'm talking about in the offseason, and you add another arm, and it's man, do you have too many? And now you kind of look at it and you think, how much would a difference would a healthy Foley make? I haven't thought that a whole lot. I haven't had to think that, I guess, one of the benefits of having nearly 40 wins at this point. I haven't had to think about that, but I had that thought yesterday and today about, a healthy Foley would be a nice asset to have in this bullpen. And then if it seems like there's a lot of Canely Vest or Vest Canely tandems at the end of games, it's because there is a lot, and you need Briskys of the world to kind of be what Brisky was the second half of last season. And I look at his Baseball Savant page right now, his fastball run value is only in the 21 percentile. Pitching run value period 31 percentile. I will say, if there's a saving grace to the Brisky thing, there should be some regression to the mean in that, his ERA, which sits right now at 4.95, his expected ERA is 3.42. So, there's an element of regression that probably will go in his favor, but that doesn't take away from the fact that if Chase Lee doesn't just have nerves of steel to come in and be a valuable asset to this bullpen right now, there are guys stepping up. That's cool, but you still kind of need your ironclad dudes from last year to be a part of this. And right now, Brisky is just kind of feeling it. And so he becomes the story after the story with the pulling of Skubal. You see what I'm saying? If he would have done what his purpose was, we wouldn't be talking about it.
Yeah, what it comes down to is we just haven't seen the best version of Beau Brisky for any prolonged period of time this year. I'm not sure that's reason to sound the alarm. I think he's been good enough. The stuff is generally still there. I think maybe it's coming. You certainly have to hope. I think that it's coming. Diving into the numbers, though, it's a little bit weird, Kieran. You mentioned the expected ERA, a lot lower than his actual ERA of 4.95. But if you want to see something weird, go look at his FIP and his xFIP, because that's higher than his expected ERA. I think because probably he's been a little susceptible to the home run ball, that probably raises the FIP a little bit. And then it's like, well, the xERA is down, so is he having bad luck on balls in play? No, he's not. The opposing BABIP is 254. That's below league average. If there's one thing he needs to be doing better, I mean, I think he's gotten burned on, some bad location, but overall he's not giving a lot of hard contact. But he's not striking guys out. He's not getting chase at all. A lot of blue on that StatCast page. His whiff rate overall is down pretty substantially from last year. 23.9 last season, 20.6 right now. But the changeup, in theory, is going to be Bo Brisky's best pitch. It has not been for him so far this year. He's still getting decent results. Guys are only hitting 200 against it. But they're not swinging and missing. It doesn't have the same vertical movement. It doesn't have the same horizontal movement. And the whiff rate for his changeup last year was 31.9%. That's pretty good. This year, it's only 23%. If he's not getting chased, if he's not getting missed on the changeup, I think that's forcing him probably to pitch more in the zone, and he's been burned in the zone, leaving some stuff over the middle a few times. I think it's key for him to find ways to get more swing and miss. He's never going to be a guy who probably does that a ton with the fastball, but he gets a healthy enough rate there. The slider is just, the slider took pretty big steps forward for him in the postseason. He hasn't used it as much this year.
10%.
So is he ever going to figure out the slider, or what's up with the changeup? That's supposed to be his bread and butter, and it just hasn't quite been the same pitch for him this year.
Yeah, and if there's an element of reason to keep Skubal in there, one of them would probably be fresh. Keep your bullpen as fresh as possible, because the amount of guys that you're really relying on in leverage situations is, again, lower than I think we would have anticipated given this record and then coming into the season. And that's all well and good, but the starting piece of this, Cody, is also interesting, because we did have an Alex Cobb update, and I was going to say it's funny. I don't actually think it's hilarious, humorous, but if you Google
Right.
Alex Cobb, which I did to verify all the stats, it the Google headline that kind of categorizes all the news articles says Alex Cobb injured in rehab stint. And I was like, I don't really.
It's not accurate. Can't trust Google AI yet, folks.
It's not. That's not true. But the reason they're it says that is because everybody's talking about how uncomfortable he looked and how labored he was and all that stuff. Because I mean, in case you guys missed it, 2 innings. That's over in West Michigan. 0 runs, 3 Ks. He threw 24 pitches. 16 of them were for strikes. His fastball was in the 92-93 range. All that is kind of to a backseat to the fact that nobody actually thought this guy looked like a comfortable man on the mound motion-wise with his hip. And if he's laboring in his first rehab stint, probably stands to reason there was some laboring and bullpen sessions and live BP. Just a guess. And I don't there's nothing to me that says here's something that will progress to get better. Given his age, given everything, I don't know what the play is there, Cody. I would just say, don't get your hopes up that Alex Cobb is going to be able to kind of save you for a spot start. That would be my advice.
Yeah, the quote from AJ Hinch coming off that rehab outing, I don't think he's feeling great physically, other than his delivery and being able to execute pitches. His stuff was really good, but it looked like he was under a lot of stress. I know I just talked about kind of metrics a lot. We're not going to talk about numbers here. We're going to talk about eye test. If you're not sure, go watch that. There's a video of it online on X. You can find it. Thought it looked bad. I thought, Yes, he looked uncomfortable. He was grimacing. I didn't think his delivery looked good. It looked uncomfortable. I didn't think his stuff looked good. He threw a few nice pitches. He threw several uncompetitive pitches as well. One thing we've been hearing for weeks is like, well, he's not moving well physically. Can't really feel his position, but he moves down the slope good. The stuff is good. Just pure eye test. I didn't think the stuff was good. I didn't think the delivery looked good. It does make me wonder how much have the Tigers just kind of been pushing that to maybe stem off the wave of negative, PR that could be coming if Alex Cobb doesn't throw a pitch in the big leagues this year, or if Alex Cobb just, isn't able to get to a competitive place. And I know I wasn't anti-Alex Cobb this winter. Thought it made sense. Obviously, the injuries was a little bit of a gamble. Right now, it looks like you're losing that gamble. We'll see what the next rehab start looks like for Alex Cobb, but clearly he has a way to go. Clearly he is still feeling pain. Clearly he's not 100% right physically. I think it's fair to be concerned, and I think just go watch that video, if you don't agree, and see if that changes your mind at all.
One of the things that I was looking for, I was like, all right, if he's just not going to be able to start, could he be some sort of guy out of the pen?
It's still entirely possible.
Been in the big leagues a long time. Surely there's some sprinkles of some relief appearances. No, not really. It's happened once.
Yeah.
It's he is 99.99% of the time as a major leaguer been a starter. So hopefully if you're looking for things that if there's some sort of salvageable aspect to the contract and bringing him in and 40-man roster, blah, 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 maybe that's the thing. But there's not a track record of him doing that. Doesn't mean he can't do it, but there's not a track record of him doing that in his extensive time as a big leaguer. So, I mean, that kind of goes into, again, one of the things that I talked about before is that, it's going to sneak up on you if you're not thinking about it, but starting pitching depth is, I want to say lacking, but it's lacking in terms of how we thought it was going to be in February and March. Cobb's a part of that. Reese Olson, it looks like he's still got to get all feel for his pitches before he comes back. Maeda, you thought was going to be some guy that you could bring in for a spot start, maybe. Obviously, that's not a thing. So now Jobe is on the IL. All of a sudden, your depth, which we didn't talk about last time because it happened right after we were done recording. So how's that for timing? But Jobe is on the IL now. So all of a sudden, this depth, it's not chaos level, but it's juggling level. It's juggling level of what the Tigers are going to have to do. And there's a positive element. It looks like Sawyer Gipson-Long, presumably, don't want to speak for a fact, looks like he's probably going to get one of these starts here against Chicago, which is a fun story. Guy coming off Tommy John, nice story, nice family. I remember when he made his debut and all that stuff. But still, you could argue there's a lot of assumptions to feel all that good about just kind of placing him in the rotation at this point in the season. Could you not?
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. Jackson Jobe, if you missed it, elbow flexor strain. It's grade 1, which means that's the least severe, but going on some other examples around the league, Logan Gilbert, seeming like this could be close to a 2-month thing. And anytime you hear flexor tendon or strain or anything with the arm of a young pitcher, it's pretty scary, right? What this really means is the Tigers, especially with Alex Cobb not seeming like he's coming back, right away, could be leaning pretty heavily on Sawyer Gipson-Long. It's almost the opposite of the spectrum as Cobb. Cobb's taking forever to come back, and SGL's fresh off TJ. All right, let's get you going. Another guy the Tigers have really been talking up. They seem to really like his stuff. I like his stuff too. When you look at his latest rehab outing in Toledo, he had 4 different pitches that had a stuff plus grade above 100. So he's got a well-rounded arsenal. He can do a lot of things, but rarely do you see guys come straight from Tommy John and just thrive. They're still getting feel for their stuff, for their secondary stuff. He's now going to make a start coming off what's probably going to be a bullpen day, I think Tuesday. So SGL sounds like he may start Wednesday. He's only made, I believe, 4 rehab starts. He hasn't exceeded 53 or 56 pitches. The Tigers are kind of asking a lot out of him. I'll be interested to see if they're able to get another arm in the system somehow. They're kind of at a place where they need one. Old friend Tyler Alexander is going to be on the waiver wire.
I kind of like that. Kind of like that, Cody.
I think it makes some sense. And look, I like Sawyer Gipson-Long. I think the stuff is there. He could come in and have success for you, but you're asking him to be a full-on starter, maybe not ease him into this at all. I think at one point the hope was you could kind of give him some spot starts. With the roster as it's constructed now, the Tigers may be asking more from him. And that just scares me a little bit because he's a young guy, barely has big league experience to begin with. Now he's fresh off Tommy John, going to get thrown to the Wolves. I don't know if the White Sox count as the Wolves. You know, maybe if he can go 4 or 5 innings and 50 pitches against the White Sox, everything will be great. But point stands, Tigers suddenly, the pitching went from just looking awesome to a little bit dicey, and there's real concern about the depth.
I'll tell you what, man, like when I saw that Alexander was DFA'd, I thought if there was an element of poetic nature of the Tigers going through, some serious injury, some just kind of naggy type stuff, need a guy that can do you start, do you bullpen, eat you some innings, guys like him, knows the coaching staff. Hey, Tyler Alexander's available. That seems like perfect timing to me. So kind of a fan of that. Kind of a fan of that, Cody, because I mean we joked when he got claimed by the Rays, it was like, well, you don't really feel good about letting a pitcher go, and then the Rays claim him, but now the Tigers could be the Rays to the Brewers, so like it would be all well and good. So I'll be interested to see what happens there, but I'm in favor. I feel like he could be just what the doctor ordered. Tyler Alexander, innings eater, lefty, all that stuff would be good for.
The weather is warming up, and with that being said, you need to check out what Rhoback is bringing to the table. If you're a golfer, especially, and you're looking for golf shirts that just have the perfect style and also are soft, they're lightweight and perfect for the summertime, Rhoback is the spot. Of course, FT's hooking you up with a code for 20% off at rhoback.com. That's FOUL on RHOBACK.com for 20% off all shorts, hoodies, polos, and more.
All right, let's move to a couple more fun topics, Cody. Man, we're so serious. A couple more fun topics. Zach McKinstry has that triple today, obviously, which leads to the only run of the game. Zach McKinstry, Cody, OPS against lefties. Coming into today, 955. 955 for Zach McKinstry against lefties, which ranks, that's right, 21st in the American League. 21st in the American League. Gleyber Torres, by the way, is 5th. Spencer Torkelson is 9th. So got some guys, at the top of the leaderboard in the American League there, in terms of OPS against lefties. But McKinstry being on that list is just shocking. I don't. Daniela asked him after the game, like, what's his mindset, and he obviously didn't give any interesting answer because he's just approach and all that stuff is boring. Maybe it's because it's unexplainable. Maybe there is no answer about how he's doing this. But credit to Zach McKinstry. That's probably one of my more fun stats of the season so far is Zach McKinstry being a dog against lefties. Who would have thought?
It certainly doesn't make a ton of sense. I mean, he faced lefties so little last season. I think 30-something at bats. It's like, does he even spend that much time in the offseason working against lefties? I mean, he said he does. He looks at some angles, but I'm not sure it was a huge priority for him. Now, an interesting thing, maybe a secret to Zach McKinstry's success against lefties, and maybe related to the fact he's hitting 367 at Comerica Park, he's a big fan of the traject machine, the traject arc that, if you guys haven't seen this, Google it, TRAJEKT. Is that right? This machine replicates what actual pitchers are doing. It's amazing. If you haven't seen it, almost every MLB team has it. I don't think the Rockies have it. But pretty much everyone else does. basically displays a video of a pitcher's motion, uses some high-end technology to replicate the exact traits of pitches, spin rate, arm angle, movement, all that stuff. So let's say you're going in for a pinch hit and you think you might face Josh Hader's just the first lefty that came to mind. You might face Josh Hader. You go in there, you type in Josh Hader, and you're basically getting reps against Josh Hader in the cage. So guys do this before the game. They do it during the game. McKinstry is one of the biggest users of the Traject machine, and it's something he credited a little bit to his success against left-handed pitchers. I'm going to have a story probably Friday on The Athletic with a lot more on the Traject and how the Tigers use it, something they have in their new smart cage that is only at Comerica Park, and Zach McKinstry seems to like it. He also happens to be hitting 360 plus at Comerica Park.
Yeah, seems like there's something to that. And apologies for the barking dog, everybody. Well, we'll wrap up. Speaking of dogs, you know who had a dog month? I mean, this in a good way. Colt Keith, man. He's currently, first of all, the only 2 hits on Saturday were Colt Keith. We mentioned his good defense on Sunday. He's got an 8-game hit streak. He's a middle of the order bat. I thought it was kind of, he had I actually thought a pretty refreshing, good quote coming into the weekend or late last week, whatever, about just obviously the counting numbers aren't that great or whatever, but he's like, hey man, I get trusted to bat third for the best team in baseball or whatever, that I feel comfortable. I feel like I'm doing something right or whatever. And he's quietly
had a great month, Kieran.
Yeah, he's getting onto something here, I think.
I mean, sometimes splits can be, I guess, deceiving because you can just pick any stretch of games and use it to kind of fit your narrative, right? But here, there have been 2 months so far in this season. In one of them, Colt Keith was pretty bad. And in another, he was really good. Colt Keith in the month of May hit 288. He had an 838 OPS. He was a legit middle of the order hitter all the way through May. And maybe it didn't quite feel like it, but now he's got the 8-game hitting streak. Yeah, you'd like to see the power. If last year's any example, that'll probably come in the summer for Colt a little bit. So I don't have much to say about it other than Colt Keith is doing better than maybe you think. And if you go look at the numbers, it confirms that, and he may be just beginning to heat up.
Yeah, it's something I'm going to monitor pretty heavily, and I'm going to want to talk about a lot more because I think an examination of his usage would be once we reach a certain level of benchmark in the season. I'm not saying what that benchmark
He's
would
not
be.
seeing lefties as much. He's only hitting 179 against lefties. But I think maybe he's getting in more favorable positions to succeed, and the Tigers are deep enough that he doesn't have to play against lefties every day.
And again, the positional element of it, the DHing element of it, credit to him for being comfortable in a lack of positional routine to be able to put together a nice month. So I didn't want that to go unmentioned. And we'll talk more about some of the other guys that were hot in May and stuff throughout the course of the next week, including a new series. That's a tease right there. A new series that we're going to do during the month of June. So hope you guys stay tuned for that. Anything else, Cody?
No, that's it.
All right. A lot of fun. As always, want to thank you guys for following along at Cody Stavenhagen. I'm at Kieran _Steckley pod page at Tiger Territory _ YouTube, Instagram, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, rate, subscribe, review, all that stuff. You guys know what to do, and we appreciate all of you. So for Cody Stavenhagen, I'm Kieran Steckley. Everybody have a great day.